our sisters to see what they're working on and what they're doing during the quarantine, and just making sure that we all get to see each other in this time of social distancing. So I am here this morning with my first victim of Facebook Live interviews, and this is Sister Mary Kay Meagher. Good morning, sister.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I wish that we could be in the same place at the same time, but I'm glad that we're actually taking it seriously.
And I do feel like a victim here. But I'm ready.
I can't wait.
Let's go.
I can't wait to hear what you're doing during the quarantine. But first, I was going to just make sure to ask you, I've seen all over the news, and we've all seen on the news everything about people worrying about domestic violence victims during this time of isolation, and people worried about domestic violence statistics going up. And I was wondering if you could give me a little update on safe homes.
Well, as you know, Safe Homes is one of our projects of ministry to help women coming out of abusive situations as they move into independent living. And we all know nationally and locally that abuse is probably going up, and probably more than we think about it when we consider that if you are in an abusive situation and you're isolated, there's no way to get out of it right now. As we went into shutdown, I did contact the 6 agencies that we work with to assure them that we would continue to, with Safe Homes, if they would be kind enough to go with us as the delay. It isn't quick as, but we were able to move all of the files, et cetera, to my apartment so I can continue to process the applications. And as a side effect of that is that I have more contact with the caseworkers and have found out how much pressure they're under in trying to deal with the woman and getting in touch with her if she doesn't have access to a fax or to a computer, but she does have to a phone. But I am in. We usually see in the last year or so about 10. We process about 10 women a month, 10 to 12. Last year, the last fiscal year, we had about 102 women and 200 something children. So I consider this more than just the women that are being affected with or being helped by Safe Homes.
But briefly, just explain when you say we assisted those women, can you just give a brief description about what we do with Safe Homes?
Yeah, we work with the 6 agencies, and they send us when the woman is ready to leave the shelter or wherever she is getting help with domestic abuse. There are 2 critical times in a woman's experience with domestic violence, and the first is getting out of the domestic violence situation. The second is when she leaves the shelter to go into independent living. The most difficult thing is getting first month's rent deposit, or utilities, and we provide that for those who are eligible. I anticipate that our numbers are going to go up after we have less distancing regulations, but we're a small project in the bigger scheme. But I always like to tell people my favorite little talk is, well, it's just a small thing, it's just a little thing. And I say, well, I sure like that African thing that says, if you think it's just a small thing, and have you ever been in a tent at night with a mosquito? So everything we do, even if it's small, is very important. And we are a small project, probably just about $60,000 a year. We have to be funded. And I'm commiserating with other small businesses in the sense of a personal concern about where we're going to get the funding for this coming year. Our major all of our funding is donations, some by smaller donations, but regular. But our largest one is really the funding that we get through the annual dinner, which was canceled this year because of the virus. So, but we're always open to donations, and I think Molly, you're going to give some information if they want to personally donate. But we can ask people to donate and also ask people to keep these women in prayer because they really are trapped, right now. I mean, it's bad enough to be home with a whole bunch of kids. Pardon me?
When you say women are trapped, can you explain how the coronavirus is affecting women who would typically be able to leave an abusive situation and go to a shelter?
Well, it's the appropriate distancing of not going out of the home, of not being able to go anyplace. So they're trapped in two ways. They're trapped with if they are in fact there with the abuser, it's very difficult. And then the isolation that goes on just with the COVID virus for all of us is compounded for these women. So I anticipate that our requests for funding will be, our requests for applications will go up. I just looked at the numbers and we got about 10 to 12 as the year has gone on, but we've only had 5 in April. We had 12 in March. Now we are more than halfway through April. So yeah, that's where we are with Safe Homes.
So just to recap, the certainly if you would like to donate to Safe Homes, you can see the website scrolling below. I hope NotreDameSisters.org. When you click the donate button, you can use a drop-down menu to specifically donate to Safe Homes. And the reason why we're bringing this up right now is while we don't have an influx at the moment of requests, experts in the domestic violence field think that we will receive an influx for requests once women are able to escape the situation again. So while they're still on lockdown with their abusive partners, for instance, once that partner can go back to work, or once the social distance restrictions lighten up, then we're going to see more women finally being able to get out of that situation. And once they do, that's where Safe Home steps in. So we're anticipating soon that there will be more requests for Safe Homes. Is that correct?
That's validated when I talk with the caseworkers on a local level in Omaha. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just checking to see, of course, if you are not a person who wants to donate over the internet, you can always send in a check for Safe Homes. You can write it in the memo, and that goes to 3501 State Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68112, to the Notre Dame Sisters. So if you want to support one of Sister Mary Kay's incredible ministries and one of the Notre Dame Sisters' incredible efforts to assist women in the area, you can send it in by check. You can donate on our website right now. And of course, you can keep us and the women in your prayers. Now, Safe Homes is not the only thing that you're working on from your quarantine desk. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing with immigration?
A couple things. I belong to a group called Mothers and Others, which started last July, and it is a raising awareness. It's not a protest. And we gather on 72nd and Hickory every Thursday morning from 8 to 9 with signs asking people to say what's happening at the border. There shouldn't be separation of children from their parents, and then the conditions of the border. So in addition to Mothers and Others gathering for that, we also have a group, a significant group actually of about 20 women, a couple men, and we have a meeting every week. Right now we're having a meeting every 2 weeks. I have become intimate friends with Zoom. So this is very helpful to keeping up our work. And then the part that we can continue to do besides to witness is it's so important. And I know people have a harder time listening to this because they'd rather do something, but we need to email our Congress people all the time. And these, not just ask them and plead with them to do something, but ask what are they doing and what can they tell us that they're doing. It's very hard to get hold of any kind of real data or numbers, but what is happening on our border and what is being done with women and children. I personally feel like most people aren't anti-immigrant, but they just don't know what's going on. So it's a personal thing for me so that they know. I think once they know, they'll respond. We have people who are really big-hearted. And also then there's another group called Immigrant Allies, and it's patterned on a little bit like what we had in 2019, Lights for Liberty. And we were planning on a demonstration or a gathering more than a demonstration at Memorial Park with various groups about what's happening to immigrants, but we've had to put that on the back burner, and we're looking now at we didn't take it off the burner, but we just put it on the back burner for looking at maybe the fall, September, October, when the distancing issue is maybe a little bit better or under control. So, and then OTOC, we're really aware of.
Let me ask you, if I may, mothers and others before we go to OTOC. So mothers and others, of course, most people have either seen on our Facebook or have seen on the street itself, people holding signs and sharing the crisis on the border. Two questions for you about that. One, are there still people holding signs outside? And two, why now is the situation on the border even more dire or more critical than it was before the coronavirus?
I'm not sure I heard your first question. Is Mother and Others open to other people? Is that what your question was?
Are people still standing out and holding signs, or get involved now during the virus?
Oh, yeah. Anybody can be involved in this. All they have to do is come and stand there for any part of the hour that they want to, but also can join us in our meetings. It's an open meeting. And where your second question is really on point is the conditions are so deteriorating at the border, and it's so hard to get factual information about that. So most of our information comes from people within the group who have some contact with people down there. But for example, one person that was down there recently or around there, or maybe there and reporting back to us, talked about a group of about 50 or 60 people who were put on an airplane to Guatemala, of which 30% of them were positive for the COVID, for the virus. So I'm sure that meaning the detention centers are like our jails, they're just petri dishes for infecting people, and the deplorable conditions that the people are living in. And then the other issue is that, and it's even on the news this morning again, that there's closed borders, so people can't apply for asylum. They're just applied and then they're pushed back into Mexico. So that's a big issue. The other issue is TPS, which I was trying to look up some stats for that for this morning, but there's nothing past 2017 as actual official stats. But in 2017, there were about 1,200 TPS people in the state of Nebraska, and most of those are in Omaha, and a very active group. And they are in jeopardy of losing their status as temporary status. And most of those people work in the meat or many of them work in the meat packing or in the farming situations. Last week I was at a meeting, and one of the gentlemen who works at one of the local meat packing, I asked him how safe it was in terms of distancing and so forth, and he said there's a great deal effort on the part of the company to let them come in different doors so they're not all grabbed together and distance. But he said once they get in there, that they're shoulder to shoulder on the line, and they don't want to. The only way to have them not so close together is to slow down the process of meat packing. So that's an issue, and I think that we're trying to get more information about what's happening in Grand Island. And then DACA is also, that's the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals before 2007, and there's a ruling that the president is going to terminate that program, and it will be some Monday, and we won't know about that until it happens. So we have anecdotal kinds of stories, but we don't have real hard facts, and it's difficult to get exact data. So, and then releasing people from jails is another issue. It's the jails are like the detention places. They're just areas of such close contact, and there's an effort to say, can we let people who are being held in detention simply because they don't have their papers out of jail, even with ankle bracelets or whatever, but that we don't have anything real practical, in place there. So that's what I know.
And that brings up a really important, when we talk about jail or detention, obviously a lot of your time spent witnessing recently has been about children in detention, and of course children separated from their parents at the border, which is a lot of the reason why this group started in the first place. And while people are covering all the coronavirus news, I think people are often forgetting that there are still children separated from their parents, living in cages, and are also susceptible, as we all are, to the virus.
Correct.
So the situation hasn't really gotten better.
It's a smaller number of children, but we also know children have been affected and have died from the coronavirus. So we have to keep that in mind.
So now you said that, can you mention again the decision that, first, I want, before I stop sharing this shared screen here, if you want to be part of this conversation, and even if during this time of isolation, you want to be getting the updates or want to be part of the Zoom meetings or still be involved, you can go to the Mothers and Others Facebook page here. It's called Mothers and Others: Advocacy for Detained Migrant Children. And this is where the group that stands on 72nd Street posts information. You can send them a message and you can start getting either on the email list. But most importantly, as Sister Mary Kay has told us, you've got to reach out to your representatives. And you said something interesting to me the other day that I thought was worth knowing. You don't just need to call the office or send an email. What is an effective strategy that you have seen when communicating with your representatives?
Actually, I didn't do this. One of my colleagues did it, and I thought, ooh, what a good idea. She contacted her senator for whatever issue of immigration she was talking about and had 2 questions, and then asked, will you get back to me with the answers? And he did. So I think besides pleading for them to do something about these situations, we can hold their feet to the fire by asking them, what are they doing? Where is their position on this? And can you get back to me with some information?
So if you were going to email your representative, you can say something along the lines of, I care very deeply about the humanitarian crisis on the U.S.-Mexico border. I worry about children and families, and I need to find out what your position is and what have you done lately on the subject.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you need any help, you can always ask the Mothers and Others group on Facebook for advice. But all you need to do is reach out to representatives either by phone or email and say, what are you doing about this issue? Where do you stand on the issue? And when are you going to give me more information?
And if you're too shy to do that, just write your letter, call the office, tell them what you want, because those are counted. So remember that mosquito intent.
A lot of people get nervous. I think people get a little bit nervous about phone calls. One, because millennials don't know how to use a phone, and 2, because people get nervous thinking, well, what if my representative picks up? What if one of their staff members give me pushback or ask me too many questions? But what is it really like when you call the number just to get counted?
Well, I think there's 2 things. I think you can always say, Oh, that's a good question. Let me get back to you with the information if they're asking for something. The second thing, if people are really shy about talking to any of the clerks or staff in the legislator's office, is to make your call at night. It'll be recorded. You don't have to talk to anybody. One of the people who's very on our group, it's her night prayer to call a congressman every night and leave a little message for him. So
yes, I have found that with my more intimidated or shy friends, why don't you just call them before you go to bed? Call them at midnight. You know, you can just leave a message and that you will be tallied in the morning.
Correct.
So that brings me to our next little piece about immigration. Boy, Mary Kay, you have your fingers in too many pies. But can you tell me a little bit about your work with the Sheem, who they are, and what the update might be?
Oh, I can tell you a lot about Ashim. First of all, Ashim is I think, is the best kept sacred of the Archdiocese of Omaha. And it's a solidarity program between the Archdiocese of Omaha and the Diocese of Huehuetenango in Guatemala. And it's based on solidarity. We're cross-cultural, we're cross-national, and we're in relationship. And this program in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in the South, in Guatemala, particularly in Huehuetenango, we have a mission trip every year for people to experience being with our brothers and sisters there. And I've had the opportunity to go on many. And this year we've had to cancel because of we can't fly. So we do maintain contact with our brothers and sisters on the team down there in Huehuetenango. In fact, I have a meeting tonight with them, and thank God for Zoom. And we will maintain a connection with them every month until things open up, and see what we can do. We can hear how they're doing, hear what their situation is with the COVID virus, and they are updated for us. The other thing I want to say, particularly to my Catholic brothers and sisters, is one of the most outstanding things to me about being down in Guatemala and hearing some things here about, oh, isn't it too bad we don't get to go to Mass and we can't go to church, or we don't have these devotions together, or we don't have blah, blah, blah. These people, usually, especially where we go up in the mountains in very remote areas, they have Mass twice a year, if they're lucky. They have the other sacraments once or twice a year. And yet they are vibrant with their faith and spirituality. So that's just a little thing to think about, that this is another way we can be united in solidarity with our brothers and sisters, because we're experiencing what they live with all the time.
Absolutely. And I'm just bringing up here, again, this is the Facebook page for Ashim. That's IXIM : Spirit of Solidarity. And this is a group where you can learn all about the work in Guatemala and the spirit of camaraderie between the people in these towns and then the people back here in the States. Here I'm pulling up just a picture of a coronavirus update about Guatemala. So if you're interested and want to learn more, you can go to IXIM on Facebook, and that means Ashim.
And Ashim stands for the Mayan word corn, which is their major product, and we're the Cornhusker state. So it's a symbol of our solidarity. So that's
absolutely perfect.
That's a little bit about immigration and Ashim. The other thing that I was asked to do, which I was pleased about, was I worked at One World Community Health Center for a number of years, and the medical director asked if I would submit a prayer every day for the staff. And they're not on the front lines like we see on TV, but they are really stressed. And they also are suffering from not having enough equipment and sorting out people who need to go to the hospital, who need to be treated. So I keep them in mind too.
So One World Community Health Center, of course, is a local community treasure here in Omaha and the greater Omaha area. And like many healthcare professionals, are struggling during the coronavirus. And we certainly have been learning how incredibly important all of our frontline workers are, needless to say, medical care staff, who are overstretched, who don't have maybe what they need. So if anybody would like to join us in prayer, I know the sisters are all praying for the staff at One World Community Health Center and our healthcare workers here locally and globally during the pandemic right now. So if you are a praying person, please add those to your nightly prayers, because our local healthcare workers and all healthcare workers could use it right now.
Because they're stretched,
Speaking of what
most of them have children, so they're afraid going home. I know of one nurse practitioner who is positive, and they had a mobile home that they used in the summer, and so she moved into the mobile home while her other 3 kids are in the house, and she has to be quarantined from them. I mean, so people are hit hard everywhere, locally, nationally. So
yeah, we see it on CNN or the news all the time about what medical care workers and other frontline responders are dealing with. But it's not just something that you get through the day. It's affecting your life day, noon, midnight, all the time, including not being able to see your family because you're taking the risk very, very seriously. So speaking of taking the risk very, very seriously, have you been taking it very seriously? Where are you quarantined and how are you doing?
I'm quarantined in my apartment, which is very small and seems to get smaller every day. And I live in a complex of probably about 30 other persons and apartments. And I'm very pleased with the distancing that we've been able to do. And I'm very strong about being adherent to those policies.
So if you're being careful, so what does your day look like then?
Well, I have meetings, and as we talked about, and I think the most helpful thing for me, or the most horrible thing for me, is I was without a computer for 10 days. So I really experienced isolation because I couldn't receive, I couldn't send emails, I couldn't go online, I couldn't go to mass online, blah, 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 blah. So I had a little.
And you're stuck in your apartment.
Yeah, right. But with the change of weather and being able to walk outside on the street is very helpful.
And do you see other people, you don't live at the mother house, but you live with other sisters. Have you seen any other sisters recently?
We have kept pretty much distancing within the whole community here at Leo Van. And I'm very pleased that there has been that people are very serious about this. And there's been no gatherings and no parties and people in and out. And and then, when I walk up and down the street, there's people, it's a neighborhood. So we greet each other from a distance, and the air in green and spring is helpful.
So for all of our followers on Facebook who might be watching right now, those who might watch it later, I just need some assurance that you can tell them that you, Sister Mary Kay, and the sisters that you know at Leo Van are being safe, and you need not worry about their social distancing.
That's correct. That's correct.
So I was thinking, what are you most looking forward to in the near future or during the pandemic?
I just I'm apprehensive about moving ahead too fast and having a rebound. So I'm on the side of, let's do this cautiously, and let's take the advice of professionals in this area. But yeah, it's hard on everybody, but we can do it. We will do it.
we all look forward to getting back to normal and getting to be together again, but we're all happy to not do it too soon.
It's brought out some very positive aspects.
Well, it absolutely has. Thank you for saying that. So for our final moments together, I thought maybe if you had any thoughts or prayers that you wanted to send out, we could finish our interview with that and then answer some questions on Facebook later on.
Okay. And you asked me yesterday to have a prayer, so I do have a prayer. But prior to the prayer, I think one of the most spiritual things that's happened to me is we have a very low income personnel here that live here. And there's a woman who has suffered a great deal of racism in her life because she's African American. And she's got a lot of health problems and obviously financial problems. And we don't really gather to talk, but when we meet each other in the hall, I always say, "Hi, how are you doing?" And she always says, "I'm blessed. I'm just blessed." And that is such a huge message for me. So I will conclude with this prayer then that I found from and adapted from Catholic Relief Services. And it says, "Awaken us. God of all hopefulness, awaken us, showing us the meaning of our toil. God of righteousness, awaken us, show us the good path to walk in confidence. God of hospitality, awaken us, show us the refuge of eagle's wings to be people of shelter. God of freedom, awaken us, show us the courage that we may always stand with the oppressed. God, open our eyes and ears to their cry and awaken in us a heart of justice. During this time, may each of us be a sign of hope and comfort. Grant peace, comfort, and health. Amen." Thank you for the opportunity, Molly.
Thank you so much. I'm just coming back to say goodbye. Here I am. Thank you so much for your update and your prayers from Safe Homes and how important financial contributions to women leaving the shelters are. I just got a message on Facebook. It says, "As a social worker with a long history of work with domestic violence, it is important to note that Safe Homes programs from the Notre Dame Sisters is a very unique program and desperately needed to help families of domestic and partner violence."
Wow.
Thank you to that social worker. We completely agree, and we are prepared for an influx. We are happy to have even more support, either financially or through your prayers for the Safe Homes program. And thank you, Sister Mary Kay, for talking to us about the Mothers and Others program, what is happening with DACA, what is happening at the border, what people in Omaha can do and how they can contribute. And thank you for all your information that you've given us today. I hope that everybody watching is learning something. We can give you the update that our sisters are safe. They're doing their best to stay healthy. And I will be back next Tuesday with another sister to give us an update, but I have to figure out who's tech savvy enough to give it a try. So thank you for being my guinea pig, Mary Kay. This was incredibly helpful. And I can't wait to see you in person again soon.
Yeah, me too. Thank you again. Adios.
Adios.